Hello and welcome to another edition of the Up Your Assets podcast. My name is Ray Ferrara CFP, founder and executive chair of Provise Management Group, LLC. Our podcasts are educational in nature and not designed for personalized advice. Please speak with your financial advisor, attorney, or CPA before making any financial moves. Additionally, no guest on our podcast pays to be on the show. We do not endorse any products or services, and the opinions expressed by our guests are clearly their own and not necessarily those of Up Your Assets. Today, we're going to discuss some of the strategies when claiming Social Security. In a previous podcast, we talked about the basics of Social Security, but deciding when and how to actually start taking benefits is not an easy task. What is better, starting early at age 62 or waiting to full retirement age, or even age 70? How does continuing to work in retirement affect your benefits? The questions are numerous and the answers even more so. To help us today, some of the strategies of Social Securities, we have our guest, Mary Beth Franklin. Mary Beth and I first met about 15 years ago. Mary Beth is one of the country's leading experts on Social Security and Medicare, an award-winning journalist and a certified financial planner professional. Mary Beth offers in-person and online seminars about Social Security, Medicare, and retirement income. She is a former contributing columnist on retirement issues for Investment News, a publication for financial advisors. Mary Beth is the host of the public television program Social Security and You. Her ebook, Maximizing Social Security Benefits, is available for purchase at her website, which is easy, www.marybethfranklin.com. Editor and publisher recognized Mary Beth's on-column in Investment News with an EPI Award for Best Business Blog of 2021. In 2016, the Women's Institute for Secure Retirement honored Mary Beth with a Hero Award for her efforts to improve retirement security for women. She also serves on the CFP Board's Women's Initiative Council, which focuses on improving gender and racial diversity in the financial services profession. Previously, Mary Beth served as the tax and retirement editor for Kiplinger's Personal Finance magazine and editor of Kiplinger's annual retirement planning guide. Earlier in her career, Mary Beth was a Capitol Hill reporter for United Press International. She is a frequent guest on numerous radio and television programs and previously hosted her own podcast, The Retirement Repair Shop, for 7 years. It's my pleasure to welcome my good friend, Mary Beth Franklin.
Thanks, Ray. I'm delighted to be on your podcast.
So, Mary Beth, in a previous episode, we talked about the basics of Social Security. And in this episode of the Up Your Assets podcast, let's talk about some strategies to be employed and things to be considered, because there are a myriad of choices for people to make, and no two are exactly alike.
That's right, Ray. In fact, there are more than 2,700 rules that govern your Social Security benefits. And I promise not to go through all of them. But a lot of decisions can be based on your current age, your marital status, and your health, because it all comes down to you want to get the biggest benefit possible that's going to last the rest of your life. And in the case of married couples, to maximize their benefits over their joint lifetime in a way that means they will get the most out of this incredibly valuable benefit.
Well, Mary Beth, you mentioned that it depends on a lot of things. I didn't realize there were 2,700 of those things to consider. But I know one of the important things to consider is to coordinate things, if you're married, to coordinate things with your spouse. So can you kind of address some of the things that need to be considered by a married couple?
Right. You should think of claiming Social Security as a household decision. I generally encourage at least one spouse, preferably the one with the bigger Social Security benefit, to wait as long as possible. That means up until age 70 to claim the biggest retirement benefit possible. Now, you never want to wait beyond age 70 to claim Social Security because these very valuable delayed retirement credits, that extra 8% per year you earn for every year you postpone claiming Social Security beyond your full retirement age up until age 70. But at age 70, those delayed retirement credits stop. So even if you're still working, even if you don't need the money, you want to go ahead and claim your Social Security at age 70. Having said this, that one spouse should wait till 70 if possible. The other spouse may actually want to go ahead and claim reduced Social Security benefits early as a way of bringing some cash flow into the household, and it helps take away a bit of the sting of having the other spouse wait till 70. And let me explain how this would work. Generally, the husband traditionally tends to be the bigger earner and consequently would have the bigger Social Security benefit. And in typical American couples, the husband is often a couple years older. So all these things stack up to say, let the husband wait till age 70 if possible to claim that biggest benefit possible. Now, say the wife has earned her own Social Security benefit, but she's 62 and is no longer working. She may want to go ahead and claim her own reduced retirement benefit now at 62. And even though her retirement benefits would be permanently reduced, it would have no impact on her survivor benefit as long as she is at least full retirement age at the time. So let's say the husband's benefit at 70 is going to be $3,000 a month. The wife is going to collect her own reduced benefit of $700 a month at age 62. But if her husband dies first, she, as the survivor, is now going to step up to that $3,000 a month survivor benefit, and her smaller retirement benefit would go away. Now, if that wife is still working, she probably does not want to claim at the earliest age of 62 because she is still subject to earnings restrictions. This year, 2025, she is penalized if she earns more than about $23,000 a year and claims benefits before her full retirement age. So if she's still working, she probably wants to wait until at least her full retirement age to claim Social Security because that's when the earnings restrictions disappear.
Well, Mary Beth, that was an awful lot, and it really shows the importance of married couples and the reasons for them to coordinate. So let's suppose they coordinated, they're enjoying a happy retirement, and suddenly one of the spouses dies. What happens at that point? Help me out, help us understand what happens.
Well, it depends on circumstances. For example, let's say the wife was collecting on her own retirement benefit and the husband was collecting his, and his benefit is bigger. She actually has the choice of when to start that survivor benefit. Let's say she's 63 when her husband dies, and she's collecting reduced Social Security benefits on her own record. It's in her best interest to get the biggest survivor benefit possible, which is when she reaches her full retirement age. So if she could afford it, she could continue receiving this reduced retirement benefit on her own record. And when she reaches her full retirement age, she could then switch to the maximum survivor benefit, which would be worth 100% of what her husband was collecting at his time of death, or what he was entitled to collect if he died before claiming. And if he had delayed claiming benefits up until age 70 to get the maximum benefit possible, then her survivor benefit is going to be worth that maximum benefit he was collecting. Now let's look at another scenario. Let's say husband and wife have collected Social Security. She had a small or no benefit of her own. She's collecting as a spouse while he's alive. When he dies, her spousal benefit will automatically convert to a survivor benefit because she's already collecting on his earnings record as a spouse while he's alive. When he dies, she becomes a survivor and her benefit would automatically convert to that survivor benefit. So she'll step up to the larger survivor benefit, but how much she actually get will depend on her age at the time. If she's younger than her full retirement age, that survivor benefit will be reduced. If she's at least full retirement age or older, she would get the full survivor benefit.
So I'm going to get the larger of the two, but I may not get it. It may not be in my best interest to get it right away.
Correct, because a survivor benefit is worth the maximum amount if you are at least full retirement age when you claim it.
You know, we always have this habit of talking about couples, but let's suppose I'm single and I'm looking at Social Security. What other things should I be thinking about when I don't have a spouse?
Well, let's define what single is in the eyes of the Social Security Administration. That means you've either never married or you were married but were divorced before that marriage lasted at least 10 years. Because if you were married for at least 10 years before divorcing, now you're an eligible ex-spouse, and that's a different category. So let's start with single. You're single. Your decision is pretty straightforward. Your Social Security benefit is going to be based on your average lifetime earnings, those top 35 years of earnings, and your age when you first claim benefits. You can claim benefits as early as age 62, but if you do, your benefits are permanently reduced and you're subject to earnings restrictions if you continue to work. If you wait till your full retirement age, you will get 100% of those Social Security benefits that you have worked so hard for and paid so much for in the form of FICA taxes, because now you're full retirement age. And the good news is there is no longer any earnings restrictions. You could receive your full Social Security benefits even if you continue to work. Now, here's the difficult decision for single people. Is it worthwhile to delay claiming benefits up until age 70? Well, certainly each year you wait to claim your biggest benefit possible will result in a larger monthly benefit. But if you choose to delay and die before claiming, technically you have no survivors. No one gets your survivor benefit. That money simply goes back into the Social Security pool for other beneficiaries. That tends to make single people nervous. So if it makes you uncomfortable, go ahead and claim Social Security benefits at your full retirement age. And if nothing else, you can bank the money and it will help you pay your Medicare premiums, which are normally deducted directly from your Social Security benefits.
So it sounds a little bit like this is a legalized Ponzi scheme.
Well, Social Security is a pay-as-you-go system, and you have to think back to the early days. Now, remember, this was the result of the New Deal legislation under President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and in 1935, that means 90 years ago, Social Security is 90 years old this year, it created retirement income to allow Americans to have a dignified retirement. It was also a way of ushering older workers out of the workforce during the Depression to free those jobs up to younger workers. But when the system started, the people early in the system had only been paying payroll taxes for a few years before the first wave of those were the first recipients of Social Security benefits. And, in some cases, they'd only contributed tens or maybe hundreds of dollars in taxes and went on to take out tens of thousands or more over their lifetime in benefits, because the way it works is workers who pay the Social Security FICA taxes today are paying the benefits of today's retiree. There is no private account waiting for me at retirement. It is a pooled social insurance. People who tend to live a long time tend to get the most benefits. People who die early don't. But in many cases, those people who die early may have eligible survivors, such as a spouse or minor dependent children, who do receive survivor benefits.
So you touched on the survivor benefits. If I'm a recipient of Social Security, maybe I married a younger person and we have a couple of young children. Do the children get anything from from Social Security? And if they do, how long does that last?
Yes, absolutely. And that's one of the great surprises, because Social Security is not just a retirement program. It's also a disability program if you're injured or ill and aren't able to continue to work. And it acts as life insurance for certain family members. If I die and I have minor dependent children in my household, that's defined as children 18 or younger, those children are eligible for survivor benefit worth 75% of the deceased worker's benefit. The caregiving spouse, regardless of age, may also be entitled to a benefit as long as he or she is caring for a minor child under the age of 16. But there's something called the family maximum limit. There is a limit to how much a family can collect on one worker's benefit. And if there are numerous people collecting on one worker, then their benefits are reduced on a pro rata basis so it doesn't exceed the maximum. Now, the other thing that surprises people is, yes, it makes sense that if dad dies and there's minor dependent children in the household, that the kids would get a survivor benefit. But what surprises a lot of people is that if dad is alive and collecting a retirement benefit and he has minor dependent children, well, those kids also get a dependent benefit while he's alive, worth 50% of the dad's full retirement age amount. Again, subject to earnings restrictions. The children can continue getting monthly dependent benefits until they reach 18, or in some cases 19 if they're still in high school. And if the case of permanently disabled adult children, those are adults who were disabled before the age of 22, those dependent children would receive Social Security benefits for the rest of their life.
Wow. So what happens when the children reach age 18 and now they're headed off to college? They lose their benefits. We're talking about the husband being the one that died first. So what happens to the wife? Does she continue to get benefits on for the rest of her life?
The survivor benefit, it would depend on the wife's age at the time. Let's say she had two young kids when her husband died. They were 12 and 14. And she was taking care of them. So technically, all three of them could get dependent benefits. The kids' benefits would continue until each of them turned 18. The mother's benefit would continue until the youngest child turned 16. But here's a rub. If mom's working, she's subject to earnings restrictions because she's younger than full retirement age. So if she's working and making too much money, the kids will get benefits, but she won't. So let's say the youngest kid is now 17, mom's going to lose her benefits, and now she's going to wait until she's at least age 60 to collect a survivor benefit on her own. Now, if she claims a survivor benefit at the earliest age of 60, it's going to be reduced compared to waiting till her full retirement age. So there are cases where dad dies, there's minor dependent children, the kids can get benefits, the mom might be able to get benefits for a while, but then could face a blackout period until she reaches the age where she qualifies on her own for a survivor benefit.
Wow, this is 2,700 different combinations of rules. I'm starting to understand. We're only touching on a few.
Let me give you an example to blow your mind. Now, remember, I don't make up these rules. I just try to explain them. So let's say we have John and Mary, and they're married for at least 10 years, and then they get divorced. And Mary remains single. Then John marries his secretary, Susie. That's an old story. They're married for 10 years. They get divorced. Susie remains single. John's one of those guys, doesn't like to be alone, goes to the local pub, and he meets a lovely young woman named Tiffany. Tiffany's 30 years old. They fall madly in love and get married. And now they have a baby, little John. Little Johnny's now 2 years old, and Big John drops dead. Who gets benefits? Everybody gets benefits. The first ex-wife, married at least 10 years, divorced and currently single, doesn't have to share. She gets 100% of John's survivor benefits. And guess what? So does the second ex-wife, married at least 10 years, divorced and currently single, also gets 100% of John's survivor benefits. That's 200% so far. Then we've got little Johnny. He's 2 years old. He gets a dependent benefit worth 75% of John's amount every month until he turns 18. And Tiffany, who's taking care of little Johnny, gets a dependent benefit every month until little Johnny turns 16. So when you're worried about long-term financing of Social Security, sometimes I think it has less to do with trust funds and more to do with divorce.
Well, I think I know that guy that met Tiffany in the pub 30 years younger. I think I know who he is. Anyway, so we're talking about divorce.
Oh, let me throw in another example for you. This is important. Again, 2,700 rules. A lot of them are exceptions. A lot of the exceptions apply to divorce. So I've already told you, to be an eligible divorced spouse, you must have been married at least 10 years, divorced, and currently single. And at that point, if your benefit as an ex-spouse is larger than your own retirement benefit, or if you don't have a retirement benefit of your own, you can collect on your ex's earnings record. And remember, in an earlier episode, we talked about for married couples, if I'm a spouse who has no earnings benefit of my own, I didn't work long enough to qualify for Social Security benefit, but I am eligible as a spouse, but my husband or wife, the worker, has to claim a Social Security benefit to trigger a spousal benefit for me. Well, it's a little different for divorced spouses. You know, imagine you've got a really nasty divorce and one ex-spouse says to the other, I am never going to retire and you are never going to get a dime of my Social Security. Well, Congress thought that might be a problem. So here's another exception. As long as you're married at least 10 years, divorced, and currently single, and in addition, you have been divorced for at least 2 years, and you are both at least 62 years old, meaning eligible for Social Security, you may be able to collect Social Security benefits on your ex, even if your ex has not yet claimed benefits. You are considered an independently entitled spouse. But remember, your benefit as an ex-spouse, you'll only get one if it's bigger than your own retirement benefit, or if you're not entitled to one on your own. But wait, there's more. In addition to being married at least 10 years, divorced, and currently single, that's what you have to do to collect on a living ex-spouse. But if you wait till age 60 or later to remarry, you still can't collect on a living ex-spouse, but you can collect on a dead ex-spouse, even if you're married to someone else at the time. So here's your refresher course. A spousal benefit while your ex is alive is worth up to 50% of his or her full retirement age benefit. A survivor benefit after your ex-spouse dies is worth 100% of their benefit. So yes, your ex is worth twice as much dead than alive. But I bet you knew that anyway.
Well, I love these examples, Mary Beth. They're quite amazing how all of those rules come into play. Well, you know, Social Security has benefits beyond retirement planning. Under what circumstances, you've touched on a couple, would a dependent child be there, somebody who's permanently disabled, a child that's permanently disabled? What's available in those kinds of situations?
Well, if a parent is collecting a Social Security retirement or disability benefit, and there are minor dependent children in the household or a permanently disabled adult child, they are entitled to dependent benefits worth 50% of the working parent's Social Security amount. If that parent dies, the minor dependent children are entitled to survivor benefits worth more, worth 75% of the worker's benefit up until age 18 or 19 if still in high school. Or in the case of a permanently disabled adult child, that 75% dependent survivor benefit continues for the rest of their lives. Now, I always caution families where there are permanently disabled adult children that they should work with disability specialists, a disability attorney or other specialists to set up their bank account for the child in a way where the benefits can go to the child, but the monthly amount they pull out would stay below other earnings restrictions, because this child may also be entitled to supplemental security income on their own because they're disabled. They may be entitled to housing benefits or health benefits, etc., all of which are often subject to income restrictions. And if that disabled child is suddenly getting a dependent benefit, it could affect their other benefits. So you want to make sure you speak with a disability specialist before you claim these dependent benefits, which could mess up their other federal benefits.
Well, you've only touched on a few of the strategies. We don't have time for all 2,700 rules to consider. I want to thank you, Mary Beth, for being here. I want to remind everybody, Mary Beth does have a book that you can get at her website, marybethfranklin.com. It's an ebook to help you with the important decisions to be made around Social Security. But I also want to encourage you to deal with people who are in the finance business. Don't try to do this on your own. Don't just listen to Social Security folks, assuming you can get a hold of one. To start with. And specifically, both Mary Beth and I would encourage you to visit with a certified financial planner professional, a CFP, to help you with these important decisions. Mary Beth, we've covered the basics. We've covered some strategies. And in our next podcast, we're going to talk about how do we fix this thing called Social Security, because it theoretically is about to run out of money in either 2033 or 2034, depending upon who you're talking about. So thanks again for being with us, and we'll look forward to being with you again.
Great. My pleasure. Thanks, Ray.
Thanks, Mary Beth.